Hey, it's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and today I'm going to teach you every chord switching shortcut that I know. And these tips will help you improve your technique and train your muscle memory so that your chord switching becomes automatic. We're going to start with G to D. So I start off on G, and I'm playing the variation where my ring finger is on the 3rd fret of the 2nd thinnest string and my pinky is just underneath it. And I can leave my ring finger down and pivot into that D shape. And then I can pivot back. And whenever you're changing chords, you always got to make sure that it feels good. So you might have to adjust your elbow, your thumb, find a good spot for everything. And by the way, if you're not familiar with the basic chord shapes, I have a free ebook. It's completely free for all my subscribers, and it has everything in it. All the chords, strumming patterns, chord progressions, a little bit of theory. It's an amazing reference, and it's completely free. So you can grab your copy. I'll put a link in the corner and down below. Anyways, G to D is at the core of it all. It unlocks that famous G, D, E minor, C chord progression. I have a video where I teach 30 songs, or at least we play 30 songs that all use that same progression, and they're all super famous songs. So it's a great way to work on these switches and actually put them towards real music. Because I don't believe in just practicing something for the sake of it. You're practicing it because you want to learn how to play songs, right? So that's what we're going to be doing, kind of in all the stuff that I put out there. I try to make sure that's the case. Anyways, our next switch, G to E minor, and you'd find that in like Hallelujah. There was a secret chord that David played, that kind of thing. And the switch, once again, we're starting on that same variation of G. We're going to leave our index down this time and then put our middle finger just underneath it. And notice when I make that switch, I have to budge my index over to make a little bit of room for my middle finger. Because I always want to be as close to the frets as possible, but whenever you're stacking your fingers like that, one of the fingers has to kind of budge out of the way. Get a nice clean E minor chord. And from this E minor, we can switch into C. We can leave our middle finger down and pivot. I'm bringing my elbow in, and I can get into a C chord. And with all these switches, I recommend practicing back and forth a bunch of times. In my free ebook, and also in my course, Learn Guitar Once and For All, we do the chord switching game, which is like 1, 2, switch, switch, 1, 2, switch, back. And that way, you're adding rhythm to it. You're given like a bit of a time limit for making the switch, and you're given a little bit of time to strum, a little bit of time to switch. There's a lot more to it than that, but just so you know, there is a foolproof method for learning any chord shapes, even like super difficult chord shapes. You could practice with the chord switching game. It's super useful. I'll put links to all that stuff below. Anyways, from our C chord, we can switch to A minor. That's another one of those switches where you just move one finger. So we have C, and then we're going to take our ring finger and put it right underneath our middle finger. Once again, we got to budge our fingers so that everything fits, and we might have to adjust our elbow, our thumb, all that stuff. And we get A minor. And then another one from C. We have a few from the C chord, because C is quite a tricky chord. We're going to go C to D minor. And this is a bit of a lesser known one. I don't see too many people teaching it, but it is super useful. We have our C chord. We're going to lift up our ring finger. And then our remaining fingers, our index and middle, we're just going to bring them one over. So that now our index is on the thinnest string and our middle is on the G string. So they both kind of just move together. And then we just put our ring finger down on the 3rd fret of the B string. That's our D minor chord. I like to actually use my pinky on the 3rd fret of the B string. It's a bit more comfortable for me. Totally up to you how you play D minor. And then another one is C into F. And this is the easy F chord, not the F bar chord. This is like an easier way to play it. It still sounds nice and full. So we have our C chord, and this time we're just going to lift up our middle finger and move it to the G string, also on the 2nd fret, and then take our pinky and put it right underneath our ring finger. So look how smooth that one looks. We're barely moving. Now from easy F, we can switch into D minor, and you're going to find that switch a lot because those chords are in the same key. we're going to leave down our middle finger, and then we can just put our index down on the thinnest string and then plug the hole there with either our pinky or our ring finger. And that's our switch. So we're leaving our middle finger down. Once again, a very smooth switch. And last but not least, E to B7. So for that one, we start off on an E major chord. We're going to leave our middle finger down, and then we're going to put our index up one string and our ring finger down one string. So they kind of just teeter-totter, you know, I'm pivoting off my middle finger and I just kind of swap the strings on those two. Then I add my pinky to the thinnest string at the second fret. And that's great for like any kind of country, Johnny Cash. And while these switching tips are definitely helpful in the beginner phase, they're also something that you can use for more intermediate things, like in Over the Hills and Far Away by Zeppelin. You know, that's the first time that I was like, how are you supposed to switch that fast? You know, and that's why I developed a lot of these tricks, was to, you know, help with those trickier bits of songs. Or in like Don't Stop Believing. Now, all of the chord switches that I taught in this lesson are what I would call common finger switches. That means you leave one finger down and pivot off of it. And these are great because when you leave one finger down, you can switch without looking at your hand. You know, I see a lot of people hurting their neck or their shoulders or even their wrist, especially if they're like twisting their guitar up like this, you know. So I encourage you to try these without looking. And by the way, if you want to know how to practice chord switches, like I said before, I have that free ebook. I also have a course, Learn Guitar Once and For All. It's an interactive course with over 100 lessons that doesn't just show you the chords or the strumming patterns. It actually shows you how to use that stuff to play songs. And it puts everything into this really intuitive path that just takes you from one step to the next so that you can grow as a guitar player from absolutely nothing into a confident strummer who can just show up and play guitar. I'll put a link in the corner and down below for that as well. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, if you could take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate that. Leaving a comment just to say hi also really helps. Or if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a fun time practicing. I'll see you soon.